Hello everyone. Let's review the 3-card blind main event tournament results for September. We're coming right off of one of the most lopsided metas we've ever seen back in August, so I'm super excited to share with some of the newer folks here what a normal month of 3-card blind looks like. This month we had a very healthy turnout of 329 players, 78 of which were brand new to the main event. It looks like the hype from August is still running high, and I'm super happy that so many of you decided to return to the format to give it another shot. So regardless of whether you're a new player or a format veteran, thank you for participating, and I hope to see you again next month. Among the 329 submissions, we saw 213 unique decks. If we weigh each card in these decks by their performance and run them through the Simpsons Diversity Index, unsurprisingly, we will see that this month was a substantial improvement in terms of format diversity compared to the month prior. That, however, isn't a super useful comparison to make because the month prior was one of the least diverse metas we've ever seen in the history of the format. So it might be more helpful to know that this month's diversity was similar to how diverse the meta was back in July. The 3-card blind diversity grade for this month was a B+. Now, because this meta was on the more diverse side, there aren't as many obvious trends for us to review. The most popular card this month was Mox Pearl, which was disproportionately because of Felia being the most popular threat this month. And the reason that Felia was so popular is because it is one of the strongest pairings with the recently unbanned Rishadan Port. The combination of these 3 cards was the most popular deck this month overall. Rishadan Port lets it earn free wins against decks that have lands that come into play tapped, like depletion lands or storage lands. Felia can be a scaling threat by flickering your own Mox Pearl, and the ability to flicker your opponent's permanents allows you to do things like remove energy field from the board as Felia is pushing through for damage, prevent Idol of False Gods from ever coming online, disarm Isochron Scepters, and many more other applications that are all relevant in the context of this meta. Felia was definitely a big standout this month, but I think all 3 unbanned cards that persisted through last month's ban vote, Rishadan Port, Energy Field, and Chancellor of the Forge, have each claimed a role on being some of the more impactful cards on the meta. The second and third most popular decks this month were both Chancellor of the Forge decks. We saw the highly disruptive Chancellor of the Forge Mental Misstep and Pyrokinesis, as well as Chancellor of the Forge Dwarven Hold Fury, which can transition into a very powerful late game deck in matches where it doesn't need to rely on exiling Fury for early removal. And Energy Field was our 8th most popular card this month, with Sand Silos and Living Conundrum being the most popular combination, followed up by Ulamog the Infinite Gyre. Each of these powerful decks returning to the format as the result of the recent unbans look pretty similar to what we saw when those cards got banned in the first place. That being said, I think they have brought some interesting variety to the format, and I'm hoping that these cards are exciting for folks who joined the community after they were originally banned. And with that, let's jump into discussing our winners as we further explore this meta. In Novice 4, we had a tie between Magdra and Pivotonian, who were both playing Chancellor of the Forge, Dwarven Hold, and Fury. This is one of our returning powerhouses as the result of recent unbans, and it is excellent at crushing decks that run smaller creatures. Felia, Lightstall Inquisitor, and Cecil Dark Knight all get mowed down by Fury with no problem. In Novice 3, our winner was Swindle, who was playing Mox Pearl, Felia Exuberant Shepherd, and Rishadan Port. So this was more than just the most popular deck this month. Its popularity reflected how effective it was, and it was able to claim pod wins. In Novice 2, our winner was Smeef, who was playing Lightstall Inquisitor, Saz's Chocobo, and Undiscovered Paradise. Since its release, Lightstall Inquisitor has quickly become one of the more popular threats in the format. It acts as a modest form of hand disruption and tax effect that is stapled to a decent body that is capable of winning games on its own. There are a large number of combinations possible with Lightstall Inquisitor, so it's interesting to see what was successful this month, and I'm also interested to see how this pans out in the future as people become more confident about which versions are better than others. In Novice 1, our winner was Jur, who was playing Isochron Scepter, Mana Crypt, and Verdant Command. Compared to the more popular Isochron Scepter combination of Lightning Helix, Verdant Command sacrifices a lot of its ability to interact with the opponent's board in favor of being able to build up a more impressive board of your own. In Aspirant 4, our winner was Guga073, who is playing Hardlight Containment, Mox Pearl, and Student of Warfare. Hardlight Containment is a side grade to Unwanted Remake, which is the stock removal spell for white. There are going to be some matches where the ability to exile a creature as opposed to destroy it may come up, but the fact that it forces you to rely on Mox Pearl as opposed to a land does open up some vulnerabilities that otherwise wouldn't be there. Relying on a Mox for mana resulted in this deck losing a couple of games, for example to Artifact Blast, Dryad Arbor, and Simian Spirit Guide, which is a deck that is specifically looking to exploit this type of weakness. Despite this though, Guga was still able to achieve a very high average score in this pod. In Aspirant 3, our winner was Mazerin, who was playing Darksteel Reactor, Energy Field, and Sand Silos. Darksteel Reactor is definitely an unconventional win condition, but the fact that it is extremely difficult to interact with, in combination with Energy Field making it very hard for your opponent to interact with your life total, set this deck up to crush the competition. In Aspirant 2, we had a three-way tie. Let's start by covering Cyril, who was playing Energy Field, Sand Silos, and Ulamog the Infinite Gyre. Ulamog is the more established Energy Field threat, and between its ability to destroy permanents on cast and its Annihilator attack trigger, it's favored in most Energy Field mirror matches. Hopping Moon was playing Mox Pearl, Mutavault, and Felia Exuberant Shepherd. Using Mutavault over Rishadenport sacrifices some disruptive capabilities to be able to push for damage faster. And Strelitzia was playing Luminarch Aspirant, Felia Exuberant Shepherd, and Remote Farm. I think both of these decks help showcase how effective Felia can be even without relying on Rishadenport. In Aspirant 1, our winner was Happy Bao, who was playing Caracas, Lightstall Inquisitor, and Rishadenport. This is a fun one where all three of your cards are able to disrupt or interact with your opponent, making it likely that you have at least one wrench to throw into your opponent's game plan. In Contender 6, our winner was Amethyst They/Them, who was playing Mox Pearl, Felia Exuberant Shepherd, and Rishadenport. As we've already covered extensively, Felia was a core part of the meta this month, and put up the results to prove it. In Contender 5, we had a tie between Eel and Fasto Dash, who were playing essentially the same deck. Both of them were using Idol of False Gods and Soul Ring, and Eel was using Demolition Field while Fasto Dash was using Field of Ruin. In the context of 3-card blind, these two cards are functionally identical to each other. Idol of False Gods can stonewall most single-threat decks by producing an endless stream of blockers, and once the idol itself has been turned online, victory is nearly inevitable. In Contender 4, our winner was Fishing, who was playing Dismember, Eldrazi Temple, and Idol of False Gods. In case you missed it, Idol of False Gods is a kindred artifact with the subtype Eldrazi, so it can be cast using Eldrazi Temple. This gives you a card slot to spare, which can be used on a removal spell like Dismember. In Contender 3, our winner was Legally Abyssal, who was playing Krenko Baron of Tin Street, Mana Crypt, and Mox Ruby. This highly aggressive strategy capable of winning the game by its 4th turn has been growing in popularity, with it coming in a 4-way tie as the second most popular deck this month. In Contender 2, our winner was Cosmic 345, who was playing the more infamous of the two all-in strategies capable of winning on turn 4, and that is Dark Ritual Swamp and Unstoppable Slasher. Although it hasn't lived up to the hype that the card had when it was initially spoiled, it's been consistently decent, and this month it's finally pulled ahead and claimed a pod win in higher elos. In Contender 1, our winner was Will Work for Sugar, who was playing Field of Ruin, Sandstone Needle, and Stingerback Terror. Stingerback Terror was banned back in September of 2024 and was later unbanned during November of the same year. The card was initially banned for being a giant and evasive threat that could be deployed by turn 2. In more recent times, however, the card has been leveraged because it can take advantage of Field of Ruin without having to compromise that much in terms of the deck's speed. And finally, in our Exemplar pod, our winner was Rendell, who was playing Ensnaring Bridge, Keldon Megaliths, and Molten Slag Heap. It's very interesting to see Ensnaring Bridge at the top of the format with Energy Field just having been recently unbanned. There is a very good explanation for this though, which is that Energy Field only prevents damage, which still leaves you vulnerable to attack triggers. This lets a card like Felia sneak through for damage underneath Energy Field, and a card like Idol of False Gods can rely on the Annihilator triggers to remove it entirely. This was a really fantastic meta call by Rendell that has led to them becoming our new champion with a whopping 1901 ELO rating. And I'd like to congratulate all of our winners one more time before we move on to discussing the cards that will be included on this month's ban vote. The first card that we'll be including on this month's vote is Felia Exuberant Shepherd. Felia was the most popular threat this month and a critical part of the meta. Although a great deal of its popularity and strength is contingent on how effectively it can leverage Rishadan Port, we did see that it was successful even without that powerful piece of disruption. Giving Felia a break from the format may also allow some other threats to take center stage in combination with Rishadan Port that might not otherwise be able to do so. The next card on our list is Idol of False Gods. This isn't Idol of False Gods' first rodeo on the ban vote, and it's not that challenging to see why. The card itself is difficult to interact with, and it can effectively stall out the game by producing chump blockers before turning into an enormous threat on its own. It's a very interesting card, and there isn't anything else quite like it in the format right now, but during its tenure, I think we've seen all it has to offer to the format. Next up, we have Krenko, Baron of Tin Street. This is debatably the strongest all-in deck in the format right now, and it has steadily become more popular as more players pick up on its potential. Notably this month, 4 players from Exemplar were playing this deck, and that type of consensus among top players tends to be an indication about the strength of those decks. Next we have Stingerback Terror, which is an extremely powerful card in its own right, but is mostly on this list because of its combination with Field of Ruin. And I think it's also worth addressing here that many of the Idol of the False Gods decks were also using Field of Ruin. The types of non-basic land destruction available play a significant role in sculpting any 3-card blind meta. Relative to some of its banned counterparts, Field of Ruin demands a lot of players in terms of constructing a deck that can actually leverage the card properly. Between Stingerback Terror and Idol of False Gods, however, Field of Ruin decks haven't needed to compromise on the types of threats they use. If Stingerback Terror were to be added to the ban list, we may see a downgraded version of this same type of deck just running a different threat. And our final card on the list is Living Conundrum. Although it didn't win any pods this month, Energy Field being legal has helped expose just how strong Living Conundrum is as a threat. Energy Field, Living Conundrum, and Sand Silos was the 6th most popular deck this month, but what felt truly notable here was that Living Conundrum was able to put up strong results using Maze of Ith or even a second storage land. It may be the most well-rounded and reliable storage land threat in the format, and it might be edging out a lot more interesting options that simply aren't able to make the cut at more competitive elos. Banning this card may increase the variety that we see in these slower decks, making the format more interesting for everyone. And that wraps up the list of cards that will be included in this month's community ban vote. Remember that you can cast your vote by visiting the website linked in the description of this video. This was a really awesome month, and I'm really happy that so many of you continue to be deeply involved with this community. Thanks for watching everyone, and see you soon.